Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Volume 1, which I'm reviewing second, of the Beethoven Overtures and Incidental Music, featuring Stanislaw Skrowaczewski and the Minnesota Orchestra on Vox, reissued and remastered and sounding fabulous. I mean, it always sounded really good, but it sounds even gooder. I mean, this is just terrific stuff. Now, this volume, which you pointed out was out. I didn't notice. I didn't see it, and I really pay attention to these things, especially these reissues, some of which are marvelous. And boy, oh boy, I'm glad you told me. So here it is. You get the 3 Leonore overtures and the Fidelio overture, and then the Ruins of Athens overture, Turkish march, and chorus, Schmückt des Altare. Yes, how exciting, which means decorate the altar, in case you're curious. Now, this is actually very nicely done because all of the other stuff, the other overtures and things are on the other disc. Here you have all of the Fidelio thingies. And, the overtures, well, it's fun to sort of go through this. Let's talk about how all this happened. Leonore Overture number 2 was the first one. That was the actual overture to Leonore, the opera, before it became Fidelio. And Beethoven jettisoned that. It was a very interesting piece. It is a very interesting piece, pardon me. It's still around, right? It basically has all the same material that's in the more popular Leonore Overture number 3, but it's not a complete form. In other words, similar to the Ruins of Athens Overture, which is Beethoven's worst piece of orchestral music, where, it's truncated, it gets cut off before the recapitulation of the second subject and just kind of stops nowhere. Well, this is 14 minutes long, so there's no way that this is like stopping nowhere. It has a coda, and it actually has a real ending and all that stuff, but it has no recapitulation. It's very strange. It has the initial exposition of material, and then it just starts developing and developing and developing and developing and developing and developing and developing. And then it just gives up and has the coda. And it ends. I think it keeps developing because the idea that Beethoven had was to somehow follow the emotional trajectory of the opera in narrative sense. That is, issue by issue. When he came to Leonore Overture number 3, he was following the emotional trajectory of the opera, but in a completely rounded sonata form. That is, something that resolves, that actually feels like it has an ending. And of course, he improved the coda, and it came to that absolutely volcanic, insane climax, which is amazing. And he generally tightened up the structure by expanding the recapitulation and condensing the development section. Very, very interesting to compare the two. It really is. Now, Leonore Overture number 1, pardon my voice, this is my post-cold, sort of like lung throat clearing section. Oh, that's good. Okay. So, Leonore Overture number 1 was written for a potential Prague performance of Leonore, which never happened. And it was only discovered like after Beethoven died, and nobody knew when he wrote it, and then whatnot. So that became Leonore Overture number 1 because it's sort of the least developed of the 3 of them. And the Fidelio Overture was the newly composed overture to Fidelio. When the opera became Fidelio, it was renamed, and it came last in the list. And that is a nice, zippy, appropriate operatic overture that does not overwhelm the entire first act, as the Leonore Overture number 3 and 2 did, of course, as well. That's one of the reasons that Leonore number 3 is sometimes performed as a scene change between the dungeon scene of Act 2 and the final scene of ultimate liberation and rejoicing. I don't think it works terribly well there either, quite frankly, because, you want the final scene of rejoicing. You don't want, the final scene of rejoicing like 15 minutes without the words, and then you get to hear it with the words. It's kind of like Anna Russell, Anna Russell's description of the Norn scene in Götterdämmerung. Well, this dreary lot of aunts, if they don't go and tell this whole story all over again right from the beginning. Well, that's what Leonore Overture number 3 does. So you don't need a recapitulation right from the beginning, do we? Anyway, but it's a question of choice and staging, and we don't have to go into that. The Ruins of Athens, as I said, is Beethoven's least effective orchestral work. It's only 4 minutes long, and when I said that originally in my Beethoven's Most Embarrassing Work talk, everybody chimed in with the usual, "Oh, well, I like it." Please, people, I like it too. The bottom line is that any piece of classically tonal music, especially if it's by Beethoven and it's only 4 minutes long, is going to be enjoyable. That doesn't make it successful. That's another question. I mean, formally successful, structurally successful. But anyway, here it is. These are fabulous performances. I mean, they always have been. And the climax of Leonore number 3, that huge pile up on that grinding dissonance, oh my God, it has never been better done. It will blow you out of your seat. It's so much more powerful than any other performance you've ever heard in your life. I guarantee it. It's astonishing. And the sonics just bring it home with even more lacerating power. So this is great. You got to own it. If you don't get it, you'll be very happy. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.